Welcome back to the Upside Down Health Podcast. This is episode number 7. I'm here today with Torben Keller, a fellow ATG coach who is an extremely inspiring man for myself and for many of the other coaches in the community. Torben owns a 750 member CrossFit gym, and he is a former professional boxer. There's a lot more to his story, but yeah, we're gonna dive into all that today. So Torben, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
We're gonna start you off with I want to learn more about these crazy challenges. So people that don't know you, like you do all these crazy things that most people would say, this what is wrong with this guy? How is he doing these things? So tell me, what are the 3 like most bizarre challenges that you have done throughout your life?
Yeah, throughout it's I think some that I even don't have written down is like most of my weight management as a boxer has been clearly is on this list because that's both stupid and actually quite unhealthy. But been there, done that. So I've lost a ton of weight in very short amount of time, a lot of times. Uh,
Hmm.
but
Like how much weight?
after Yeah, I've lost the most of it is 8.2 kilos in 6 days. Just like
Okay.
between 16 and 20 pounds in six
Wow.
days. And I
Wow.
wasn't fat at this time, so I was about 10 body fat percentage at that time. So it was quite some 10% of my body weight, a little more actually. But yeah, um, but yeah, and that wasn't funny at all. Um,
No, I can imagine.
but yeah, after I ended my boxing career, uh, I dive into this mental stuff is that how how why is that I'm possible of pushing myself through boundaries that will make other people stop. So I wanted to go into this, look the demons in the eyes and see why why do I actually want to continue when it all of my body is saying and yelling no, stop, but don't do this. uh, because I can relate this to going with my clients when they, for example, have to run their first kilometer. In their head, that's the same as when I do like, uh, it's not even on my top 3, but I did a backwards marathon with a lot of altitude heights. Um,
How does
and I
that
have
not make
never,
the top 3? That's crazy.
that's the cliffhanger for going into the top 3 now, right? Um,
Oh my god.
but yeah, I've never ran a marathon before, and I just ran out the door backwards, and it's 6 rounds with a lot of height meters. So yeah, that was crazy. Um, but yeah, starting from below, I have my third I've put on this list is I want in Norway where there is a um, on what is that called in English, skiing for
Hmm.
like you know long distances. They have a 90-kilometer ski in Norway, which is very famous. But I couldn't attend, and the weather made it like no snow at all. So I just did it on a, if you know, ski erg machine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've not, had this much relationship with the ski erg machine before. So I just jumped on the ski erg and started pulling. I wanted to pull in 90 kilometers. But what I found out was that after 5 kilometers, my hands were filled with blisters. So I taped it up, but the stupid thing I did was when taping them up, when tape gets the heat of you pulling all the time, this glue is gonna melt. So it just tore more of my hands off.
Oh my
So
god.
I had around 80 kilometers with no skin on my hands.
Oh my
Um,
god.
but yeah, so I stood there for like 7 hours, 7.5 hours, pulling the ski erg machine. Um, so that was quite mental. Uh, Clearly my number 3 stupid thing. Um, yeah. and jumping into second, it was actually, and my second most stupid thing is what is crazy about this list is that everything of these sounds fairly easy at first because it doesn't take any skill set.
Hmm.
Um, but I was invited by a group of people. We're doing something called Hell Run in Denmark, which is the hardest 24 hours in Denmark, which is 24 hours with plus 24 events from a former high level soldier, which is doing this. And he invited me to do like, if you're into mountain climbing, there's a thing called the Seven Summits, which is 7 mountains with totally of 43,316 meters in altitude, which is 7 mountains, Vincent Massif in Antarctica, Aconcagua in South America, Kilimanjaro, Everest, Elbrus, McKinley, Carsten's mountains, which could all be climbed and mountain climbing. But the thing we did was in a group of 10 people, we went up and down a stair, uh, which had around 200 steps. We just went up and down, up and down, up and down for more than 8 hours. And each time we reached a mountain top, we did like 100 push-ups and ate an ice cream because on every top there's ice, right?
Like
And
actual ice?
yeah,
Did you
so we ate
say?
an ice cream each top and did 100 push-ups each.
Oh my God. So how many mountaintops did you reach then? I'm trying to imagine how does the 200 steps relate to the mountain? Is it like
It's just because I don't remember how many times we went up and down, but the 200 steps equal like somewhat in altitude, right? In height from above sea level. So that height was just multiplied until we reached the 43,000 meters. So if you have a 4 meter height difference, you just go up and down that for like 10,000 times.
geez.
So my calves, I couldn't walk for like 2 weeks after doing this shit, man. Oh, my calves, they were like busted. And the thing in this is, it sounds so easy because just walking up the stairs and down again, up and down, up and down. But it's the same route, small route, up and down so many times that your brain gets, burned. It's just the same over and over again for like when you've done it for 2 hours and are totally toasted in your calves and think that I have 6 hours left now. And we didn't even knew that at that time, right? But yeah, that's the funny part because sitting here on the backside of it, it was like funny and stuff, but it was like hell doing it.
Yeah, and
But
most
yeah,
people don't want to go up and down the stairs more than like 3 times in a day. You did it
but
for
yeah,
eight
there was
hours in a row.
yeah, that was, and then to number one, that was when I did. I have a friend who also walked up the stairs with me. He asked me, "Hey Tom, what do you think about skipping 100,000 skips within 24 hours?" And I was, "Hey, I've been boxing for years. That's easy. Let's do it." And the world record is 140,000 skips, and that was a pro skipper who trained for it for 2 years. Um, so I thought, okay, maybe we should train, but I've been boxing so many years, so I didn't train. And then and then we went off for this challenge, and we skipped continuously for like 3 hours with only small stops for putting a, what's that called? Just small draw on a piece of paper for each 100 skips. And for the first 3 hours, we had about 20,000 skips. But at that time, after the first 3 or 4 hours, my feet, the palm of my feet, the ball of my feet started to hurt so much that I thought I was jumping on nails. It was just like every time I started skipping, and we then turned into doing like every minute on the minute we did 100 skips, had a small break for like 20 seconds, and then did it again until we had 4,000 skips each hour. So we'd have 20 minutes for taking our shoes off and getting some air to the feet. But whenever I started again, I thought, okay, now I just continue skip because starting is hurting so bad that I don't want to start
Mm.
again. But going half into my 4,000 instead, I need a break. I need a break now. It hurts so much. So I would do that over and over again for the last 20 hours. And that was like, wow, that is definitely the craziest thing I've done is skipping those 24 hours. That was
How long did it take
that
to
was really
recover?
mental. I still had two toes sleeping about 1 month after. But the
Well,
funny thing is that in all our knees over toe talk and the tip thing, I did not have anything in my calves or my tips. It was only the ball of my feet and my toes. That was just like I was busted, but nothing else.
where did you skip? Did you just like where were you, you guys weren't in place, obviously. Like where were you
We
going?
no, we were in place. So we
Ah,
had he has a garage where he has a garage where he does service on Ferraris and stuff. So we had a big television also to see movies going on and music and such. But yeah, so it's just the same fucking place for 24 hours.
okay. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm trying to paint a picture, and that's definitely, I mean, the backwards marathon, people can see that on your Instagram. Like
yeah. You can
you
also
did the
see
whole
there
recording.
in my highlights there's also the 100,000 skips. I've recorded that as well. So
Ah,
you can see some videos from me talking. It's obviously in Danish, but you can see some videos from the highlights there.
that's the best part is hearing you speak your language.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I kind of want to dive into your boxing career a little bit and like I guess in terms of like just life and life lessons and learning, what's the most important thing you've learned being a professional boxer?
Yeah, I thought a bit of that because what could I actually tell that I brought with me? But I think then, by thinking of it, I think that what I learned most is that the difference between top and bottom level, and I think that's related to every sport and everything in the world. The difference between the best and the worst is not dependent on the top level of people, but at the lowest level. So the best have a smaller margin between their top level and their worst level. It's not the top level because everybody could once in a while reach something, crazy level. But
Mm.
maintaining a high level even though you're have bad days, that's what make the best. So that's what I think is great. It applies for everything in life. And so don't get blind. I've written that down. Don't get blind by chasing the funny things that makes 1% of improvement when you could improve plus 10% by working on the boring fundamentals.
Mm.
So sticking to the fundamentals and being a very good on each day is making the difference whether you're a great or just a good one. And
Hmm.
that was the
So
same for me as a boxer.
like you're saying that basically the greatest people, they may have bad days, but they bounce back so fast, and their bad days aren't even close to the amount of good days that they're having. So most people might be
And
able to
and
reach that
further,
high point, but
yeah,
they
and further is that the average boxer, his best day or one of his best days, his top 10% days are like that is the bottom 10% of the best ones.
hmm.
Their worst level is so high because
Hmm.
the margin between their highest and their lowest is so small. When you're new and you're an average, you can have very sucking days, but you can also have very good days. So the margin between those two are like crazy.
Okay, so the better you get, the margin over time gets smaller and smaller and
Yeah,
smaller
yeah,
because you're so consistent.
yes.
Interesting.
And I think that applies for everything. So if we try to turn that into eating habits, when you get good at your basics and get good at your doing it continuously, your bad days and your good days aren't that different, right? It's just because you're continuously doing the good stuff that makes you healthy. What makes you unhealthy is that you on 2 or 3 days a week are like super healthy, and on all the other days you're like super unhealthy,
Yeah. Yeah,
right? So
that's
the
a good
margin
metaphor.
between good and bad is the same. It's the same with economics. So if you save like every amount of money for 1 month, but spend it all plus more the next month, you'll still be in debt. So transferring this into life is like that was maybe the most important thing I've learned, and the most applicable thing I can use both at high level but also at the lowest. And that's what I mean is that the best aren't the one who's like doing overhead squats in the Bosu ball. No, they're still doing the fucking ATG split squats because they want to be the best. So they stick to the fundamentals. They're just that good at it, right?
Is there ever a time and place for those 1% improvements where,
Yes,
maybe you've really mastered the fundamentals and you're trying to
yes,
take yourself to the next level?
yes. When you have all that settled, all the fundamentals, and if you're because looking at, for example, a very easy way to look at it is if you look at the Olympics in weightlifting, the difference between number 1 and number 7 is 1% in weight. So a very, very small difference between the best and the second best and seventh best. And that's again what I mean, that for those people, it doesn't matter that you take all these supplements. If you eat like an idiot, then you can't fix it with supplements, right? So
Hmm.
you need to build a house from the ground up. You can't start by picking the roof if you don't have the fundamentals down. So it's waste of time to speculate on what interior should we put in, or what couch should we put in if you don't even have a house. So
Hmm.
get the house first.
Yeah, build the foundation. That I really like. I always use that metaphor for the body too. It's like your body's a
Yeah,
house. So,
yeah. And I think it applies for everything. And you should just think that if you had had a very good house, then what color or what the last percentages isn't that important. It only gets important if you have to utilize that for like becoming a world class athlete or whatever.
yeah, so those world-class athletes when they're at the top, it might actually be like you said, there's those
Yes,
little things. So maybe once they get to that point, they have to start.
yes.
And yeah, that does make a
But you
lot of
don't get
sense.
to that point if you don't have the fundamentals down.
Yeah, you're not even in the conversation.
No.
Interesting. So when you're in these, all these challenges that you were talking about earlier, and I mean, you said it was hell, right? So how do you? I honestly, I'd like to ask you this because I literally just heard this quote by Kobe Bryant. I'm sure you've heard of Kobe.
Mhm.
Um, he was asked like, do you believe, or how do you deal with pressure? I guess you can answer a question.
It's just my girlfriend opened the window with our baby, so we have to close it.
Okay.
Oh
Um,
yeah, come in.
yeah. So he was asked, how do you deal with pressure? And he said that pressure doesn't exist. I haven't dealt with it in years. He said pressure is a part of your ego. So yeah, I get. How do you deal with pressure, and do you believe it exists?
It definitely exists. But I also agree it's an internal thing. Because I was the first boxer in Denmark to go pro, and then here 5 years after I quit my boxing career as a pro, I was the first Dane to go back to amateur ranks. Um, and I felt a lot of pressure because my legacy was on at stake, right? Going back and now 12 kilos higher, and I wasn't wasn't too soft in claiming that I would go back and be a both regional and Danish national champion once again, just to try. And I wanted to do that before my daughter grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I found was that why I wanted to come back to boxing was because I missed it, and I love boxing, and I just wanted to have fun. So going into the Danish championships, people were laughing at me because I was quite small. Because this time I was going at light heavyweight. It's below 81 kilos. And before I was the super welterweight division below 96 kilos. So I moved up 12 kilos without, growing higher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the funny thing was people were laughing at me, but I didn't felt any pressure because everybody else had everything to lose. I didn't have anything to lose because I just wanted to have fun. And this really turned into my big advantage going into the ring, right? Because now I was actually there to have fun instead of to prove myself to somebody who don't even care about who I am.
Hmm. Didn't you say that
So
it was like because you were coming from that different perspective, um, and you had actually trained to be faster earlier on in your career, so like you were moving like almost like everybody was in slow-mo or something. I think I remember you
yeah,
talking about that.
yeah, and it was very funny because when I quit my boxing career, I started, getting into training more and doing all of the structural balance thing. And the funny thing was that I was a bit scared about, or not scared, that's the wrong word. It's more like uh, curious to figure out going 12 kilos up with, oh my God, I think these guys will punch like hard as hell. But getting into the ring with people is funny that it wasn't the case. They were actually punching heavier, but it was way easier because I could see it like miles away. I could drink a cup of coffee and then just put up my guard. It's just like in slow mo. So the hard punches in boxing is the punches you don't see, right? So so yeah, I actually also turned out that I have never been a knockout artist because I've been a technician all my life, and people telling me that I haven't punching power and whatever. But the thing is that when I moved up in weight here, I actually stopped half of the victories I got. Uh, so it was quite funny that getting up against heavier guys, I was the one now knocking people out.
Wow. So you would say that your approach to situations of having fun instead of taking it so serious is what allows you to push through the pressure.
Um, that's one thing. The other thing is that try to put down on paper what is the pressure. Try to put down on paper what is causing the pressure. Most of it is that you don't want to fail, but the problem is when your fear of failure is bigger than your uh, ego to win or the happiness about victory, right? So if you're more scared than you're actually happy to win, then you're running away instead of pushing forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes plenty of sense. You just have to generate this kind of excitement for things and like
Yeah, and try to be objective. What
mm,
is actually to lose, right? If you're putting everything you got and really are honestly doing whatever you're capable of, and like I said, that as a boxer, if you have a judge, who's the one choosing to whether or not you're winning or losing? That's never me. It's always the judges. So I can never choose whether to win or lose. That's a judge's job. But my job is to box the best I've ever learned. To put everything in on a line, and then they are the one who choose who wins or lose. I can then agree or disagree, but that's their job.
mm. So control what you can control.
Exactly. And I'm only, but and then you can say I could just be even better. Then there's no doubt, right? But we all know that when there's subjective judges and this is in a subjective manner, there's always the doubt, right?
Yeah, yeah. That everybody is complaining about the refs and they're never talking about how could I have done better.
Exactly. So
Mm.
if I knock people out, there's no doubt. So I could just have been better. If I lose and I thought I won, maybe it was too narrow, then I have to improve. So like I like that what Ben is always saying: create, don't debate. So don't be bitter, be better, right?
Yeah, yeah. I like to create, don't debate. He talks about it in terms of, he always says never argue with people. Also,
Yeah,
because you never win arguments, and
no,
by just creating your solutions, people can kind of absorb them and not, you don't have to like argue with them. You just tell them what you believe.
and it's the same here. Is that if you're an athlete and don't get the victors in a subjective sport like boxing, if you don't get the victors, just be better. Don't blame judges because they will just be more against you. So don't blame them. Just be better. Say, okay, cool. I'll just improve.
Hmm.
So let it be fire into, to put your fire on.
Yeah, I love that. When you're trying to achieve a goal, you have all these goals. You've done a lot in your life, and you're still a really young guy. So like, do you have some systems for how you achieve goals, set goals, and go after them?
It's funny because the biggest goal I've had, like really clear goal, was that I want to be the best boxer in the world. That's the clearest goal, like, very pinpointed goal that I've ever had. And I was really down deep when I quit boxing because what now? Who am I? And all this personality stuff is like, who am I when I'm not the boxer? And what I'm actually good at? And yeah, what's the goal? Um, and it's made me think because all our talk with Keegan and and this uncommon success education and all this made us think about what do we want to achieve at this year and this year and this year. But the thing is that it's very hard for me to put up a single like goal.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I put this walking backwards up, it's not like some I haven't trained for this. It's just something that I think that I'm able to cope with in my mind, and it's all a mind thing because it's not hard. It doesn't take any skills. It's just going backwards for like until got the record.
Yeah. So talk about that. What's this is the next challenge that you're doing, right?
Yeah, on Friday, because one of my friends, a girl, she's going for the world record in 24 hours running on a treadmill. She has to run 323 kilometers on the treadmill in 48 hours. And then she asked me because last time she was doing 24 hours, I was doing 24 workouts in 12 hours because I had to get back to work. So I did 24 workouts in 12 hours. Uh,
Because I had to get back to work.
yeah, so I slept for like 2 hours and then I went up and back to work. I was just my body was crushed, but yeah. And then she asked me whether, hey, could it be cool for you to do something backwards thing? And I said, hey, yeah, cool. So I tried to on the internet. I just put up Google backwards on treadmill record, and I found none except a guy from Malaysia who done in the Asian Guinness World Record. He have done continuous walk for 24 hours and 42 minutes, and I thought, okay, I can beat that. Uh,
Mm, he doesn't know what's
so,
coming for him. Poor
so
guy.
but
Uh,
the thing is that it was only telling, how long time he walked and didn't know how fast or what the distance were. So I found him on Instagram and wrote him a message to ask
mm,
how far he went. And he actually wrote me back that he was walking with this 3.5 kilometers per hour, and a little less than 90 kilometers. So I thought in my head, I ran a backwards marathon. That's the half the way, and that was only in 7 hours. So it's going to be easy.
Huh.
But I think what is going to be hard is it's going to be fucking boring.
Yeah.
But yeah,
How are you gonna entertain yourself? What are you gonna do?
I haven't figured that out yet, and I really haven't actually either figured out how I get to sort my things because I haven't really asked someone to come help me with, putting up water and such yet. I just have to figure it out. Uh, I'm just a guy who always think the solution will come. We'll sort it out.
You you just kind of go it like with the
Yeah,
flow of things.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things that I think I heard you say is like you I think you said you don't read books, right? You just kind
No,
of let your lessons come to you with life.
I'm I've written like maybe I've started on a lot, but I've never actually gone quite far because I tend to fall asleep or yeah, it's not good for me. I don't really get into it. It more irritates me that I'm more like taking a book up and then I'm looking how many pages are till the end and then I think oh fuck so foreign. So I'm more like into like talking to you or having conversations with Keegan or engaging with communities is my way of learning.
Hmm. And just life in general, like,
Yeah.
hmm. Yeah,
And that's the
that's
thing is that putting obstacle in front of me and see how how I'm gonna get by.
yeah. Yeah, so how do you just in terms of like a goal that boxing one was like really the only goal? Like right now you don't really have like say I mean you have a business too.
Yeah.
Do you have like goals for the business and things like that or is it really just go with the flow for everything?
The thing is that we're 4 years now into my business and I've never written a business plan. So I'm actually about to write that now because I see that I'm sort of get bottlenecked on some information that I want to
Mm,
get to my employees and start being a leader instead of just like an entrepreneur. But yeah, I have goals in terms of financial freedom and such. But the thing is that I like my life, so I like whatever I do. And if I don't like it, I just quit it and find something else to do. Um, yeah. But the thing is that, of course, I don't want to be from now on and until my death of just like working a lot. I will forever be working because I like my work. But I want to have more freedom to, if I want, to just take a week with my kid and my wife, or yeah,
yeah, so don't lose you trying to maintain the work-life balance to a
yeah,
degree. You don't want to make everything your work, but you
no,
know that if you're going to work your whole life, then it's kind of like you're not trying to get to your retirement so you can relax on a beach.
no, then I'll just die of boredom.
Yeah.
No, but still, just like Keegan says, and he really has helped me a lot of resonating with this that if I earn more, I could give more because I could do more like this because I think things like talking to you is developing me a whole lot. Um, and hopefully could help other people. And one of my goals is to make an impact.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I kind of want to dive into diet a little bit because that's a lot of what I'm trying to help people with this podcast. So I'm curious in terms of the mental side, I feel like you probably have a lot to give. How do you help your clients stay on their diets?
yeah, and that's also a funny thing because um, written down happiness. Are you happy? Um, so I try to learn my clients that your diet and your choices generally in life are made on your core values. So if you want to be happy and healthy, would you eat at McDonald's every day? Would that bring you closer to that or further away? Okay, further away, then stop doing that. So I think that um, turning it into a sort of a spreadsheet, or like what I've written down here, like um, into a thing where you have like being happy on top, and then reverse engineer yourself into like where and now. So if I eat this, would it put me closer to being happy or not and healthy? Yes, no, no, then don't do it. Yes, okay, maybe you could eat an ice and be happy. So after you've eaten an ice, are you gonna bang yourself in the head afterwards because, oh, now I've eaten those calories, or my stomach aches or whatever? Yes, no, and then you have the solution yourself. So it's just about, do you want to be happy or don't you? But the problem is that your social environment in this are crucial,
Hmm.
because if everyone around you are like eating stuff that you actually want to skip, then it's very hard to be the one standing out and say, no, I don't want anymore. So, so yeah. Um, does it make sense what I'm saying? Or is it
Would
just in
you
my
would you say that? I mean, it sounds like you're hinting at this like your five friends make you who you are kind of
yeah,
idea. So is
yeah,
that what you believe?
exactly. I believe in that a whole lot. And I've come to this conclusion also by having a group now we're 8 months into this. I have people in groups of 5 going for lifestyle changes for 1 year. And I have a group of girls or who are plus 100 kilos, that is 220 pounds. And I have a group of girls which are just the ones who want to lose a few pounds. They're quite good, but they want to lose a few pounds. The funny thing is that when we talk about life and their bodies and everything, it's all the same. When they look at themselves in the mirror, they have the same tendency to, blame themselves and don't be happy and all this, whether or not it's the big girls or the quite normal girls.
Hmm.
But the main difference in why the bigger girls have harder to really change their lifestyles is because all of their friends are the same. They're big, every one of them. So it's very hard for them. Maybe they have been bullied all their life and their self-confidence is low. So it's very hard to say to their friends that now I don't want to be a part of this anymore, because they'll just be pulled in to the other ones because, hey, you want to be a part of the group anymore? And what are their friends now if they skip all their friends? Then they're lonely. And being lonely is just even more shitty. So rather eat some food than being lonely, right? And whether the other girls who just want to lose a few pounds, they have their friends working out occasionally and, often quite, 2, 3, 4 times a week. So they'll just pull them with me. If you're a bit down, come down with me training, or let's go for a walk, or instead of, saying, let's watch Netflix and eat. So the habits are very, very different within those social environments.
How do if you're struggling with that idea of pulling away from that group, or like in general, just like how do you approach the philosophy of not caring what people think of you?
Then we go back. I think we go back to the question you asked me about the pressure,
Hmm.
because being clear about what you want and why you want it, and having some sort of integrity, is mostly what makes people understand that it's not something I just say now. It's something I really want. And if you're a good friend of mine, you're gonna help me with it. But if you're not a good friend of mine, you're gonna pull me away from my goal. So being really honest with yourself is that, what would happen if I say to my friends that I'm not happy with our social engagement always is around food. Could we do something about being active or exercising, or just taking a walk instead of sitting with Netflix and chill, right?
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, if you really put it up, I think most friends would say, "Hey, that's a very good idea. We never thought of that," because within themselves they want to change as well, right? but none set the path.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah, so you it sounds like you basically have to be a leader, and you have to carve the path and be the person who other people can look at and say, "Oh, I didn't even know that was an option."
And how do you change that? I think that looking at us, the two of us, for example, we are also being shaped of the community we are within, right? So what I think COVID have actually learned us that was good, maybe the single one thing that COVID has done good, is it learned us that we can actually shape relations and make relations through talking with you here on the Zoom call is putting our relation even better, and just talking on our Telegram and whatever, engaging is making this community and feel like you're belonging and something are putting you in the same path and all this. So I think getting into communities like this will help you when you're now in the real world and have to put it out into real world actions.
Yeah. Yeah, because we live in such a weird time where you can actually your five friends could actually just be the four or five people that you listen to on podcasts, and like I can use Ben as one of my five guys,
Yeah.
and Keegan, and so it's like you don't really have an excuse anymore for why you don't. But the I think the real deal is probably it probably elevates it even more, the people you're really physically
Yes.
in the environment of.
But what I think is that I'm about to make a community, online community for Danes who want to, change their lifestyles. So let's say we are getting thousands of people into this community. Hopefully now it's way easier to meet with some of these guys within your local community, right? So we start out because it's a lot easier to start out new relations online than it is in real life.
Yeah.
So hopefully what I think is that this could be a spark on someone who has limited friends and they're stuck with those friends and very hard to get new ones. Maybe they actually know new people who they maybe know in advance, but didn't knew who thought the same way as themselves, and then we start to click together.
Yeah,
So I think exactly
it's hard
that.
to find those people, for a lot of people. So that I think you could do a lot of good with that community.
Yeah, I think starting it online is way easier than to find out. Hey, let's meet up. And Denmark is so small that we're like the longest drive we can do in Denmark is like 5 hours. So
Mhm. Wow. Wow. I'm curious about, so we're kind of covering all the different aspects of what allows you to achieve these crazier things that we were talking about at the beginning, because you're giving us the mental approach, you're giving us how you perceive the goals, and the environment that you're setting yourself up with. And so what happens when you hit the roadblock and you have to actually learn from your whole life you're learning from all these mistakes, you're not reading books, so how do you learn from mistakes, and how do you learn from the turns in the roads, the setbacks?
actually, the first sentence I wrote is that I love setbacks uh, because setbacks are possibilities to grow, to adjust, and a way of revealing the pitfalls, which could be solutions when you get, for example, in my life, when I get clients, when I've done, been down those pitfalls, I can tell them, I can hopefully tell my daughter, and all this. But the idea of a life without setbacks is insanity. So rather embrace it and use the setbacks as a way to grow. Um, because thinking that from now on I'll never get setbacks anymore, that's like that's like blonde. Uh, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, what would happen if you never had another setback?
yeah.
Nothing.
That would be like having cheating codes for a game of life, right? That would be fucking boring.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could pick up cheat codes from other people, and like I can learn your lessons and take them and apply them and maybe avoid some mistakes. But at the end of the day, it's gonna sink in deeper when I make the mistake.
Yeah, but still, I'm like, if you do exactly what I said you have to do, it wouldn't apply for your life because your life is different from mine. Even though we are sort of the same, but if you
Mm-hmm.
just copy it, it would be a copy and not a, evolution.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's
because
why
you've
when
come up with this principle of the life is simple thing. So that's something that you came to. You're, yeah. I don't know if you could share a little bit about that. Like you say, keep it simple. Simple ain't easy.
yeah,
Yeah. How did you get to that? It wasn't something you read, obviously.
it's actually a quote from one of my first inspirational, the coach Dan John. Um, he says that
Hmm.
life is simple, but simple ain't easy. Uh, I love that quote because everything, once you really break it down, is very, very simple. But
Hmm.
don't mistake the word simple with the word easy. We're just confusing those words, and words are very, very meaningful. So, how we pronounce and use our vocabulary is very meaningful. So, as I written here, like Lyndon, a guy from the group we are within, he said to me, and that really resonated with me. I start by being a human being instead of being a human doing,
Hmm.
right? So be the thing you are instead of do something or you're being. Um, and I think when written down is that try ask yourself the why instead of just being a lemming and just following unconsciously in the heels of somebody else to an unknown destination. So keep it simple. What do you want and how do you get there? And like with the diet, what are you doing today? Is that getting you closer or further away from a goal? What the type of person you want to be? That's very, very simple, but it's not easy because there's this social engineering around us is not always letting us be the one who we want to be, right? Um,
Hmm.
so we're against some forces sometimes, um, but you can't just take it head on. So we have to be clever and learn our way through it.
Hmm. So know, just if you know who you want to be, instead of trying to find all the answers somewhere else, just like confront yourself and ask yourself, how can I do this?
Yeah, and start by actually figuring out who you are, because it doesn't matter to have a destination if you don't know where to start. Then you can't find a way. So you have to know your starting point. So get to know yourself. That is one of the biggest thing. Maybe going back to that question, talking with you now, that is maybe one of the biggest thing I learned from my boxing career. All that, all those hours in shitty hotels, just training 2 or 3 hours a day, then staying with myself for like multiple hours is like that learned me a lot about myself, right? And that's also why I do all these crazy things, is because I get to spend some time with myself and my inner demons.
So your recommendation for helping people like learn about themselves, self-awareness, is just sit with you, like do things where you're forced to be alone.
Yeah, and actually ask yourself, honestly, am I happy? Am I really happy? So, do you like your job? After I quit boxing, I tried to, sell boxing gloves. I made my own boxing glove, and I'm an educated banker. I don't know why, but yeah, I know why, because they were sponsors. So I was able to travel during my work, but that was boring as hell. I should never ever work as a banker. Uh, I could
You
earn,
were a banker while you were a boxer, or
yeah, while I was an amateur boxer.
wow.
Uh, so yeah, but why have a job I don't like? Of course, to get the money, but I could get the money doing something I like instead.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That seems so in line with your philosophy of keeping things simple.
Hopefully it is.
Yeah. It's like, are you happy?
Yeah,
Am I happy? Do do I like this thing? And then so you just do things that you like. That's your kind of
yeah,
life philosophy.
yeah. And if one day I don't like, owning a CrossFit gym anymore, I'm just, backing off, do something else.
Hmm.
Think of it. People working their ass off in Denmark. We have like 6 years vacation a year. We
Okay.
work. Then we take 6 years off, 6 weeks off. And some people in those 6 weeks go down and be a dive instructor or whatever. Why don't you change your job to be a diving instructor instead? Then you have vacation all the time. Like why work for like 42 hours a year or something to have 6 weeks you enjoy? Why don't have the other way around?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you, I guess it's like do what you would do if you didn't have to make money. So those people
Yeah.
are they're not making money. They're just, I mean, maybe they are, but they're on their free time and that's what they want to do. So whatever you do in your free time, I guess, is
What makes
probably
you
what.
happy,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? So I learned this little thing also from a TED talk about hack schooling, which actually was quite nice, uh, which should be watched. The guy was Logan LaPlante. He talked about hack schooling, and his parents took him out of school and make him go for a snowboard shop to learn mathematics because they could learn the curves and how to sell and earn and all these things. Um, and what he says is that if you're asking children, what do you want to be when you grow old? They're like, talking about being an astronaut or pop idol or whatever, sports star instead of being a
Hmm.
doctor. Because the definition of them, what do they want to be when they grow old? It's being happy, being something awesome. They don't think about earning money or whatever.
Hmm.
But the funny thing is that if you're happy, you're gonna get your money, right? Because you're gonna produce quality content.
Something just came up for me. I'm really curious what you were like as a kid. Like you never talk about that. I've never heard you talk about what were you like when you were like 5, 6, and then even into your teenage years.
I think on hindsight, we found out that I maybe have something. I don't know if it's the same in English, but a bit hyperactive. So my mom made me go to Taekwondo when I was 6. You're first able to start when you were 8, but my mom asked the coach because we knew it, we were in a small town, if I could go because I was just like very much into Jean-Claude Van Damme and Bloodsport and all this fighting things. Uh, and uh, I was able to start. So I had just before black belt, red with the three black stripes at the age of 12. And this community of strict rules, and I was the youngest by half the age of the second youngest coming into
Hmm.
this community. But the martial art system is a lot of respect, for elderly and doing the codex and all that stuff. And it learned me a lot of what's that called? Seriousness or like respect,
Hmm.
dedication. So you bow when you go into the gym hall and all this. But I trained like 3 or 4 times a week as a 10-year-old. uh, and yeah, then I started boxing at 13. But I was, eager to. I would do everything, anything to win when I was a kid. I didn't even, even though I had friends when we were playing soccer together, I would, almost punch them in the face if we were losing, because winning was just my everything. Uh, yeah, yeah, and I didn't like school. Uh, Maybe because I was quite I'm the kid who never wrote a book to get to exam. I just did it. So I've never been good at, all the writing stuff, because then have to be very clear about your answers. But I could talk, and I could talk my way out of things. Um, but yeah, I think it bored me kind of going to school, the way the school is set, because you just have to reply what the teacher says instead of understanding. And that's something that resonated with me, growing up now and having a kid,
Hmm.
how we're learning and how we're supposed to be learning. Um, yeah,
How do you think we should be learning?
I don't think we could say it in, one case, because then we're just making another stupid system. Because right now we have it made like one system, and you have to fit in that box. But my girlfriend, or she's a doctor, she's very good at going to school the way we're going to school in Denmark, at least, where you have to learn things. And she's, way more clever than I am on other stuff. But we're different. So thinking that the two of us has to learn the same way is like insanity, right? I'm more like a mentor person, so I learn a lot more from. If I had to learn something from you, you have to show me, and then I have to practice. Let me practice how I could solve it, and then you could give me, cues along the way or whatever, instead of saying you have to do like this. Um, and then my girlfriend, on the other hand, she's very good at learning all these freaking dosages on medicine and all this. She remembers everything. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Um, but it's just different. So I didn't have very much excitement about reading or writing copy when I was in school, because it bored me as hell. Now I like to do it. So now I learn it because I like, if I'm good at putting something on paper, to share. But it's very hard for me at this day. So that's one of the things I have to learn. But when I write about exciting stuff, it's easier for me.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense, and I think that's how a lot of people are. One of the things about school is that it's like it. Whether if you're not someone who goes into a community like you did, and you were playing different sports and things like that, then you kind of need school for that, like community building and learning how to talk to other people and things like that. Um, with your gym though, um, you have all these members. I'm curious if you have any advice for uh, keeping relationships with all the people and just making new friends and things along those lines.
Yeah, I think integrity is the best. Actually, I had a coach, or a wannabe coach, coming up to me and said, "Torben, why don't you like me?" Because he have applied for being a coach at my gym several times, um, and he's a friend of mine. But I said to him, "I like you, but you don't have the personality of being a coach. And I hire personalities. I don't hire skills. The personality is able to learn skills, but being an idiot, I can't undo that."
Hmm.
So he asked me that and said, "Hey, I would like to talk to you because," and he was like, "Oh, I'm able to put on, this hat when I'm doing this and this hat when I'm doing that." I said, "That's exactly the reason why you shouldn't be a coach, because I want my coaches and the people around my gym to have integrity and be themselves. So my clients, or members, when they meet one of the coaches down in the supermarket, they're still saying hi and knowing their name, even though we're not in the same location." And I think honesty and integrity is what makes relationships solid.
Hmm. So just always being the same person and not, and being your true self.
Yeah, and of course you can, like, he has quite hard to understand it, but of course you can. Um, some people, I tell them more straight away what I think, and someone else, I know I should, wrap it around and tell them in sort of the other way. But that's, if you're always being a kind guy and always being honest, you can just how you're being honest. It is the difference, and that's depending on what the person you're talking to and all that stuff. But always being, honest and sort of the same. That I don't care whether the guy I talk to have millions or is unemployed. He has the same respect for me. I respect him the same way because he's here to learn.
Hmm. That philosophy is really interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that you don't hire for skills. Because I mean, people will say that I look for the person in an interview, but like typically, if you have skills, it's gonna elevate you up. But like you're just saying that I can help. I can kind of create these people into really good coaches and teach them all the skills they need.
The funny stuff is that the most skillful athletes are usually one of the worst coaches
Hmm.
because you don't have to actually be able to do a muscle up to teach a muscle up. But of course, if you're able to do a muscle up, you have, more uh, more ammo in your gun.
Yeah.
But it's not necessary, and it's more necessary that the member is trusting you and you have a good relationship because the
There
trust in
is.
you will shape
Go
the
ahead.
way. Yeah. So there's also several studies showing that, let's say in physiotherapy, if you're hurt and you have a good relationship with the physio, then no matter what they do, you tend to get better
Huh.
instead of, a jerk putting the right exercises.
That makes
So
sense.
my take on it is that if I have the right person and the right personality, they also the ones who want the best for the members and the clients because that's within their personality. So giving them the tools would just, be, multiplying their efficiency instead of me having, the trouble of working with someone's shitty childhood or whatever. I don't care. It's gonna take me years to correct that instead of just correcting a good person, serving them the tools.
Hmm.
I don't care about whether they have papers or whatever study. I don't care.
Who's the most important teacher in your life, and what's the most important thing you've learned from them?
Uh, I don't have a single person, probably not. um, so when I go through my life, I've always been fascinated by people who, through hard work and honest work, gained recognition. Uh, when I was a child, it was these sport freaks like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jackie Chan and Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, Michael Jordan, all these guys. But later, do you know of a Canadian guy called Terry Fox
I
who
do,
ran the Marathon
uh,
of Hope?
just because you sent me that documentary.
Yeah,
Loved
and
it.
that is something like, he's the only non-state person who ever been printed on coins. Look at you making that impact.
Yeah, do you want to share just a quick summary of his story of what he did?
Yeah, Terry Fox is, the founder of Marathon of Hope. Uh, he ran from, I think, east of Canada, and then he wanted to run west across Canada. And he was diagnosed with cancer in I can't remember the years, but the 80s maybe. Um, I think he died in 82 or something, but he was being amputated one of his legs, so he was running on, with one artificial leg, and that artificial leg couldn't bend at that time. That was like stiff. So she was running a marathon each and every day for like more than 100 days or something. It was totally crazy. Half a marathon in the morning and half a marathon in the afternoon. And his brother were like driving the car beside him. and the internet wasn't invented, so he had wanted to collect money for cancer. Um, and with the internet not being invented, how would he collect money? He was just running, and then were people, stopping by the street, and he actually was invited into football stadiums, and when he ran this trip, and it was like, what? It's a 9 minute ESPN. Uh, you're able to watch on YouTube. It's like phenomenal. Whenever I feel
Yeah.
a bit sad or a bit down, I just watch this 9 minutes, and I'm on
Yeah,
fire again.
I'll link it in my description of this video for people to watch. It is pretty bizarre. I mean, it's just like always see this stopping like after the marathon, you get some lunch and then go on the road again and just do it
He's and
again.
that's where I think that, okay, me walking backwards for like 26 hours is nothing compared to him running a marathon each day on an artificial leg who wasn't able to bend.
Yeah,
And put
well,
that in
like it
perspective.
would have hurt so much too, right? Like every
It's like crazy.
God, not even just the mental pain, but like the physical pain of putting an
Exactly.
artificial leg on the ground. I mean, that's just brutal, man. So yeah, so you kind of use certain influences to,
Yeah,
and
and
you don't have certain teachers that are, um,
no, I get along. For me right now, Keegan is very inspiring, and Ben is, and all of you guys, because all the things you're doing with the jogging is quite amazing, and I'm a bit, what's that called, jealous, because I'm still struggling with getting like 20 seconds of three ball juggling. But yeah,
I'm still struggling too, but
I
it's
love I
fun.
love being
It's
be
fun.
I love being among people who are trying and doing.
Hmm.
I don't care whether it's many money or not. It's more like the effort. I like people putting an effort into something.
Hmm. I'm just thinking of a question for you that's gonna put you on the spot. But you're very much this guy where you would not trade your life with anybody. Like I know if someone offered you to live in Michael Jordan's shoes, you would turn it down because you're Torben and you do what Torben wants. If you had to though, and you had to live the life and you had to switch lives with somebody or do certain job that somebody has that you really like who would that person be?
Mm, yeah, I think that right now, in my shoes now, I want it to be, because that's sort of the road I want to take, and that's why I've engaged with this community, where Keegan and Ben are at the moment, but more like Keegan's position than Ben's position, because uh, I would like and would love to work more with coaches and people who want to help other people, or people who want to help other coaches. uh, because um, I've come into the decision that if I want to change or make an impact, which is one of my biggest goals, and I don't know why, but in my gut, that is one of my biggest wishes, that whenever I die, I have I have a bit of a piece of a puzzle in most people possible. So
Hmm.
everyone should have a sort of, oh, when I met Torben, uh, I left happier than I entered.
Yeah, that's cool.
Uh, so by doing that, if I teach other coaches, I can reach even more than if it's just myself.
Yeah.
So I think of the shoes of Keegan, mostly because the job he's doing and the way he's um, sorted it out. It's quite awesome. Yeah. So I tend to try to practice what I preach. So if I want to change in a direction, like with a person like Keegan, I want to engage with him, because that's gonna put me a bit closer at least. to knowing also, maybe I want this on the surface, but do I want that, with all what that comes with it? And to get to know that, I actually have to get to know the person who are living that life. Because I also have a lot of clients with a lot of money, but I don't ever want to be in their shoes
Mm-hmm.
because what comes with it is not what I feel will make me happy. So on
Mm-hmm.
the surface, they have big cars, private jets, whatever. But below that, on all the roots beneath the ground, which are doing all the work and all that stuff, I don't want. I don't want that part.
What do you mean about that?
It's just like, for example, I have actually my partner in my business. He have earned like millions, three digits millions. But he's still waking up at 4 in the morning each day, work like till 8 in the evening, and like being, it's hard for him to lose the weight. He's too fat, and because of all the work, all the stress, the bad sleeping habits, all that shit.
Hmm.
So getting those in that position in exchange of my health, then I'd rather be broke.
That's interesting. I just heard a guy talking about the rat race, and he basically, I'd never heard a guy say this. He said the rat race isn't necessarily just for employees, it's also for people who are entrepreneurs, and in their startup phase, they neglect the world and they neglect their health. Basically, he said that the rat race is really just seeking something like that, the pot of gold at the end of the tunnel, and it's neglecting yourself for the service of that pot of gold, which you're never ultimately going to get to anyway. So yeah, there's this guy. So you're talking about a guy that you train, and he's a
Yeah, he's my
multimillionaire, but he
partner,
doesn't.
and he's a
Oh,
partner
it's
in
your
my
partner.
business as well. Yeah,
Okay,
he's owning the buildings I'm within, and he's a very good friend as well.
but he just struggles with his health.
Yeah, because he's working so many hours, and he has done that for like so many years that it's his way of life. He's been addicted to work almost.
Yeah, is that like, say someone like Ben Patrick, who he is addicted to work. He's a workaholic by definition, but I guess that might be a little different than what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, because his sort of work is, by doing his work, he's providing, but he's not. He's providing the knowledge and sharing and doing his work while training and taking care of himself as well, because that's a part of his work.
Hmm.
But uh, Bent, who's the name of this guy, is not taking care of himself as a part of his job. No, he's neglecting sleep. He's eating out. He's drinking alcohol to, ease off with his friend. He's going into town and drinking like hell, and because then he could relax. Then he's waking up 4 a.m. next morning and go to work, and even on weekends as well. And he got the possibility of getting a lot of money into his pocket. But with that, he just started all over again, buying new businesses, starting all over again. It's just like you had the possibility of just like doing whatever you wanted most. But because this is what he wanted most, he's doing that. But he's just sort of not going into like, how would you utilize your life? And if this is true happiness for you, why are you then struggling with your health?
Hmm. So what is like, what is, a lot of people will talk about success and happiness, and like, what, I guess, what does that actually mean to you? Is it like, is it a multitude of different things? Is it your health, your family, and all the different things that people?
Yeah, it comes in priorities. For me, it's like I have a health marker in my life that whenever my child, my girl, who is now 2 years old, whenever she grows to be like 14, 15, I still want to be able to beat her at every sport. Uh, so I don't want to grow up like being the parent who sits in the couch and says, "Oh, you can do that. I can't bend down," or oh, I can't run with you, or if she's gonna do ballet dance, I'm gonna go with her. I don't care about that skirt and whatever. I'm just gonna do that because I want to be supportive and I want to be able to do whatever. Um, yeah, I don't care about people, laughing at me or whatever. This is my priority, and I want to be able to do whatever. And in that case, I need the money to be able to take myself off and not being um, stuck on having to work just these specific hours each day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not because I don't want to work. I just want to be able to shuffle it a bit around. So that whenever my girl says someday, "Hey, father, we're gonna go to Germany and go to uh, a tennis match or whatever," I want to go. I want to go with her to be the support.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I throughout the whole podcast, I honestly I've just been like, it's cool to observe all your different principles, and to me, like the last question was about leadership, and like to me you come off as just like the you're just the staple leader, like in my mind, like all this honesty, the integrity, the simplicity, and the way you conduct yourself. It's just really admirable. And but I'm curious what you think a leader is, because that's me looking in on you. But like, yeah, how do you define a leader? What traits? What kind of person is a leader?
And I'm happy about it if that's the way I come across, because for me it's integrity is one of the most important traits, I think, is being you, no matter if you're standing in front of an unemployed or a multimillionaire or a guy you need for your work or a guy you hate. You need to be yourself. And I think that a leadership, and that is something I work on, because I've of course have some downsides as well. That having the belief that others are capable of doing the things that you are doing, the trust, I've had some troubles in my beginning years, and I'm just about to being better at it, trusting that others are able to coach as well as I am, or having the clients as well as I am, because I've been disappointed so many times, but they shouldn't kill my belief in other people,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody at a job assignment, what's that called in English, when you
Uh,
sign up for a job, the talk.
Employment, I don't know, job. It's normally
Yeah,
just
when
job.
when
Oh, like an
somebody
interview or like,
yeah, exactly. Everybody knows what to say, right? That they're the ones. Oh, they're self-served and they're wanting to do the best and whatever. And when I hire people, that's just not the case. It's just like lemmings who have to be told what to do all the time instead of just doing something, right? So I've been disappointed so many times, but I refuse to let down on humanity. Uh, so for me, I'm trying to work on being the leader who are allowing to give responsibility to others so they are able to blossom, right? So don't be the devil micromanaging all the stuff. Give directions and let people run. But if you always keep them in a leash, they'll never run fast, right? They'll only run that far away. But you want them to run like hell, right? You want them to be free.
mm-hmm.
So I'm working on and reminding myself of being hopefully being that leader that give directions and some guidelines that I wanted within those areas. But if you're able to hold it within these principles or values or whatever, then just go with it.
One other last question that's just coming up for me now is in terms of like actionable steps for health, whether it's diet, whether it's like some kind of meditation practice, or like something that's kind of actionable to give people that they can that are really important for you, what would you tell people?
I think it's I think it's building self-confidence. And I think that is the biggest health issue in the whole world is low self-esteem.
Hmm.
So what I start out my clients with now is that start each day with drinking a glass of water. Are you able to complete that task? Because it's so simple, no downsides to it. You have no downsides to drinking a glass of water in the morning, but still people are not doing it, right? So I'm telling people if you can't even drink a glass of water each morning, how are you able to think that you're gonna get through a diet change or lifestyle change or habit change if you can't drink a glass of water each morning? So, but the thing is that the bigger picture is that if you're able to drink a glass of water each morning, now you accomplished task number one. Bling, achieved. Now you could take on a little bigger challenge and completing. And now I think I'm in that naive spot that you can put up whatever challenge. And if I think of it at like, okay, I'm able to do that, I don't think I'm ever will meet a challenge that I couldn't do. But I mean that in real seriously. Maybe I'm not the fastest, maybe I'm not the strongest, maybe I'm not, the best, but I forever get through it. I'm able to do everything because I've done so many tasks that if I want something, I'll get it. And if I don't get it, tomorrow I'll just wait. I'll just get it. Doesn't matter the time. And just keep on going until I'm done.
Hmm. So if
Because time
somebody's
goes,
really go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
yeah, it's just that time goes no matter what you do. So by 1 hour has passed. No matter whether we sit in the couch or we
Hmm.
prepare a lunch or whatever we do. So whenever I take on this challenge of walking backwards, in 26 hours has passed. So whether rather sit after 14 hours and banging my head, I said, oh, I could have done more, or will just walk there and be miserable and then actually be the record holder after 26 hours.
Hmm. So the time is gonna pass. So if someone's gonna do a challenge themselves, your recommendation is to kind of approach it with like it's fun. It's not this super serious thing.
Go low,
Um,
aim low. Don't be too high achiever, but start with the lowest possible uh, goal. Don't start with the highest. That's stupid.
hmm,
If you were asked like, oh, tomorrow could you run a 100-meter sprint below 10 seconds? That would be stupid. The first question would be, are you able to run 100 meters?
hmm,
And if you are, how fast? Take your time and then set goals from there, right? Don't set goals that are super hard to reach. It's the goal that you're reaching your goals, right?
hmm.
It's not hard to put goals up that you're not able to reach. That's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Anybody
by
can set
by
that
continuously
unrealistic goal.
yeah, and by continuously completing your tasks, you're gonna get better, better, better doing it. And your belief in yourself, your self-esteem is gonna raise. And are you seeing any anorexia with high self-esteem?
No.
I don't think so. Are you seeing people with fat bellies with high self-esteem? I don't think so.
No.
I think they're gonna do then the chances which puts them in position where they have great self-esteem then.
Maybe sumo wrestlers. There might be some big ones who are happy.
Exactly. They're also happy not to live any longer, right, in that miserable life.
Yeah.
But yeah, now, but
You're
what I
right
mean is
though.
that going down into basic and why and really keeping it simple, right? Is that like when we set ourselves goals, that if you haven't been serious about your diet, then saying that okay, now I want to go for the next month straight without eating any sugar. That's just like okay. And then after that, what are you gonna do, right? So if you're neglecting yourself something, that's what you want all the time. So try to be a little more like easygoing, because if you just get better at 1%, then in a year you're 365% better.
So get those 1% improvements, but make sure they're the fundamentals of your whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's I feel like we covered so much, and there's gonna be a
Hopefully we hopefully we have,
yeah.
and hopefully not too, I can always blame my boxing career if I mumble too much, or if I'm not understandable.
No, you're definitely your English is. I mean, for a second, it's a second language for you, and you still can articulate your message really well. So yeah, I commend you for doing it, and I'm thankful and grateful that you're in this community and you're sharing, and you're and the reason I say that to me you're like a very inspiring leader is really what you're doing with like these challenges. It's like it's the real leader to me does things and doesn't necessarily tell people what to do. And I know you do that. You do exercises in the gym, and you let people watch you, and then they start to copy you. And like I can feel it myself that I'm turning into you, like by watching you. I'm going to start doing challenges, and I'm going to start trying to become more like that, because a leader a leader shows and he doesn't tell. um so yeah, thanks so much for being open and sharing your stories with me today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited, and you should never neglect your impact as well. It's you're crushing it. Being an inspiration for me as well, and having me into this, doing a 1 hour chat uh, in English is also kind of nerve wracking, but what could go wrong, right? Hopefully, we could use some some translation if it goes wrong, or people are able to DM me if they have any questions.
Yeah, where can people reach out to you if maybe they want to watch these marathons and all these challenges? And then are you going to be posting the one on Friday
Yeah,
too?
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be posting and talking some because the thing about posting it when I go through it was actually when doing the marathon was because when you talk about things in hindsight, you always were a bit more cocky and a bit better, and you were, a bit easier to just be cautious about how you pronounce things. When you're in it, you're like fucking on the deep sea. Whenever you're on the deep sea, just like you get the real authenticity when I post it right away.
Mm,
Uh, and I think that it was the thing that I wanted to see myself and want to show is that how do I cope in the real world instead of just telling how you should cope with your thing? How do I cope real time?
mm.
Also to show that I practice what I preach.
That's what I like about it so much. It's so open, and it's so it's not like bragging or anything. It's just like very authentic, and it's you just trying to inspire people at the end of the day. And you're inspiring yourself as well, and you're gaining that self-confidence, which seems like to be your main message, that you need to spend some time with yourself and learn more about yourself. So yeah, you do have an Instagram account.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
the
the
handle of it?
at Torben Keller is my Instagram, and yeah, Facebook as well. Uh, that's TK Boxing. I think the slash um after .com on Facebook. I think that's TK Boxing.
Okay.
And yeah, reach out. I'm hopefully being. I try to be as what's it, reachable as possible, and yeah, open to having
Yeah, I
chats or whatever.
I think you kind of displayed that you're an open guy, and even in this community, you've been sharing and helping as much as you can. So, yeah, I hope people, if they're inspired by this, even if it's years down the road, they reach out to you and they say, "Oh, what's he doing now? It's how many mountains is he climbing today?" And I have no. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do
We
in the
have to find
future.
out whether at the are you coming to the expo there in April?
Yeah, I will be there.
Hopefully, there's some odd things we could do there as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We'll have to make it work. We'll have to make it happen.
Yeah,
And I think maybe I'll have you on again next time you're doing another crazy challenge, and we can dive more into that. So yeah, thanks again,
cool.
and
Thank you very
yeah,
much for having me, buddy.
just keep being you. No problem. Have a good one,
I
man.
will be. Thank you. You too.